Welcome to the Widowed Mom Podcast, episode 331, Grief and the Secondary Loss of Friendships.
Welcome to the Widowed Mom Podcast, the only podcast that offers a proven process to help you work through your grief, to grow, evolve, and create a future you can truly look forward to. Here's your host, Master Certified Life Coach, Grief Expert, Widow, and Mom, Krista St-Germain.
Welcome to another episode of the podcast. It's a beautiful September afternoon here. Beautiful, beautiful. It's been raining so much. The fact that the sun is out and there are no clouds and it is mild feels amazing to me. If I could record this podcast episode from my porch, my back deck, I absolutely would. One of the things I love about that back deck, though, is that there's water behind it. So it probably wouldn't be very good for podcast recording. There's several fountains and a pond behind my house, and I love it back there, but maybe not the best for podcast recording. Anyway, it's a lovely day. Hopefully next week I will get the yard cleaned up. I think I mentioned it that I had sewer problems. They found them during the inspection, so thankfully I didn't have to pay for them, the repair, but I didn't realize how invasive the repair would be. And they dug this, like 14-foot trench in my front yard. It was wild. So now I have to have the yard redone. So hopefully that will happen next week. After all, it's going to rain again, and then it will clear up, and then we'll get the yard done. Have a master's retreat this weekend for my master's. Mom goes on master's members. We do that once every 6 months. It's online. It's amazing. I created a brand new retreat for this time. Sometimes I create new ones. Sometimes I use ones that I've loved in the past. This is a brand new one. So I'll do that all this weekend. That'll be fun. Enough about me. Let's talk about something that catches widows by surprise a lot, which is the loss of friendships after becoming a widow. It's a grief experience that sometimes it doesn't get talked about very much. And so then when it happens, we're not really prepared for it. It can be kind of confusing and unexpected and pretty painful. So I think it's pretty true that most of us expected that grief would hurt and that when our person died, there would be a lot of grief associated with that. But sometimes what we didn't expect, and what I want to talk about in this episode, is we didn't expect that we would be grieving the people that we thought would be there after our person died. So I want to talk about some of the reasons why it happens, not about trying to blame anyone or blame yourself, but just why it actually does happen. And then what you can actually do to help you deal with it, right? What you can do to get clear on what you want out of it, who you want to be in it, how you want to relate to other people now. Because some people won't show up for you the way that you want. That can just be a part of grief. So first, secondary loss. If this is a new term to you, I did record an episode about secondary losses on the podcast, but a secondary loss is something that you experience as a result of your primary loss, right? It's a loss that follows the primary loss. It's secondary to the primary loss. You lost your person, that's the primary loss. But maybe in addition to, or because of losing your person, you also lost your identity as a wife. You also lost perhaps your financial stability for some of us. Some of us, a secondary loss would be the routine that we had with our person, the way we co-parented with our person, right? There's all these different losses that we experience that are secondary because of the primary loss. So this falls into that category. Your social circle, your friendships, right? This can be one of the most painful secondary losses, is the loss of friendships. So why does it happen? I have several theories. None of them are about excusing or blaming, just about understanding, okay? So first, your grief did not cause anyone to disappear. So we don't want to blame your grief. And it may have also revealed what was already true, which is that some people are really uncomfortable around our grief or around grief in general. That's not to blame the grief. That's to say that they may have some intense feelings that they don't know how to be with about it. And grief can put a spotlight on that kind of discomfort that already might exist within them for reasons that we cannot control, but can seek to understand for sure. So maybe for someone else, watching you feel sad or powerless or angry or uncertain or any of the feelings that you are, of course, experiencing in grief, because grief is all the feelings. they might not know how to feel okay when they perceive that you aren't. And so sometimes what happens is they try to say things that make us feel better, but then other times they check out, they ghost, they avoid. They decide that they don't want to be around us, and maybe it's not even a conscious choice on their end. It's just so uncomfortable for them because of what's going on inside of them that they end up not choosing to be there for us in the way that we wish they were. Sometimes we learn that the relationship was really rather role-based. Maybe it was we were couple friends with them. We were coworkers, and now we don't work with them anymore because we decided not to go back to work after our person died, or we changed jobs, right? Our role changed, and so therefore the nature of those relationships may have changed too. And it's not really a slight on anyone. It's not even to say that they aren't interested in handling it or couldn't if they wanted to. It's just to say that it was really about a shared role. And because that role is no longer shared, sometimes then the relationship changes. And that can feel like a loss to us. And then, of course, sometimes I think we pull away. And that's not a judgment. Maybe we didn't feel safe with them anymore for some reason. Maybe we just felt completely overwhelmed and didn't have the capacity to reach out. And so we didn't. Maybe we felt like they wanted us to pretend to be fine, and we didn't want to pretend to be fine. It just didn't feel right to us anymore. Again, it's not about blame. It's just about, why does this happen? What's actually going on? Then, we can feel what needs to be felt and grieve what needs to be grieved and decide what we want to do with it. So I want you to hear, this is a loss. Losing a friendship as a result of losing your person is a loss. It is grief. And remember, grief is the natural human response to a perceived loss. And if it felt like a loss to you, you perceived it as a loss, and you are experiencing grief around it, then of course, give yourself permission to grieve it. Give yourself permission to feel it. It makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I think sometimes it's even harder though, because we just didn't see it coming. We just didn't think that it would be that way. And then it is, and it feels like a loss. So how do you move forward when this happens to you? What do you actually do? I did an episode recently on the healing grief spiral. This might be familiar to you. If it's not, I'll just kind of give you the basics, right? But the healing grief spiral is a framework that I created and that I love. It's really something I've been using for a long time. I just never gave it a name until recently, but you might have heard me talk about it before. But let me walk you through it. Essentially 3 steps, right? So the first step being settle the storm inside, meaning get your nervous system to a regulated place, allow the feeling to flow through, right? Support your emotional self and your nervous system. Settle the storm. You know what the storm feels like, and you know when it's not settled. So the very first thing we want to do is settle it. Maybe that means you're thinking about this person and you have a strong wave of sadness, or you feel a strong sense of abandonment, or you feel really disappointed. Whatever it is, you might notice yourself wanting to get away from it. You might notice yourself feeling a little bit out of body. It might feel really, really intense. And I want you to start there. We can do so many things with our breathing, right? Inhale and exhale twice as long, and do that for a bit. Or tap, or cry, or go for a walk, right? There are a number of ways to process emotion. There are a number of ways to settle our nervous system. So settle that storm first. Then, when you can think clearly, because the storm has rolled on through, your nervous system is back to regulation, your prefrontal cortex comes back online, you can think clearly, then you're ready for step 2, which is to choose your thoughts intentionally. Notice what your brain is telling you it means that this has happened. Is your brain telling you that everyone leaves me? Is your brain telling you that you're too much, or no one gets it, or you're all alone? There's a story in there. You want to look for it. And then you get to decide if you find one that is an unhelpful story by your own definition, meaning it's moving you away from the experience that you want to have, which you get to decide. Then you can decide, what do I actually want to think about this? What do I want to think about this person? Is it true that everyone leaves me? Okay, not really. Yes, my person just died. And yes, this person and we're not having the kind of friendship that I wanted us to have, but look around for the other people that are still there. If your brain story is I'm too much, is that really true? Or is it just that this person didn't have the capacity to deal with what was going on with you? If your brain's story is no one gets it, is that really true? Because there's a whole lot of widows who do get it. Maybe this person doesn't get it, but I know a lot of widows that do get it. So, right, we can choose thoughts that move us toward what we want, but only after we have settled the storm, we have noticed the thoughts that are moving us away from what we want, then we can choose thoughts intentionally. And then the third thing that I want to encourage you to consider as part of the spiral is to take meaningful action, right? So we've settled the storm, we've chosen our thoughts intentionally. Now let's take some meaningful action. Who do you want to be given that this happened? What do you value? And how could we take action toward that? Maybe that means texting someone that you feel safe with. Maybe that means you want to write a letter that allows you to say what you want to say without sending it. Maybe you want to extend an invitation to someone else that you'd like to be friends with. It's not so much about a particular action, it's about what is meaningful action for you. What action is a reflection of what you value and would take you in the direction that you want to go and have you showing up as the person you want to be given that this happened? Take meaningful action. So settle the storm inside, choose thoughts intentionally, take meaningful action. That is the healing grief spiral. We do that over and over and over. It's never something we finish. We're always a work in progress. Now, if you are the one who pulled away, maybe this is actually a friendship that you want, or maybe it's not, but if you were the one to pull away, that's okay too, right? Maybe you just didn't have the energy. Maybe you needed rest. Maybe you didn't feel safe. Maybe you were just really focused on survival, like you were doing everything you could just to tick the boxes and get through the day. All of that makes sense. So many of us can relate to that. And now you can also check back in. Ask yourself, do I want more connection with this person? Maybe you do. Maybe a conversation is the next action that you want to take, right? You want to tell them what was going on for you and rekindle that relationship. What kind of relationship do I even want with this person? Because even if your brain is offering you a should, doesn't mean you have to continue the relationship with the person or continue it to the same extent that it was before. I don't want any of us going back to relationships that don't fit what we want anymore because we have some should thoughts in our brain. Maybe we weren't resourced then, but we are now. But really the only reason we would be going back to that relationship is because we're hearing the story in our mind that says we should. Not what I'm interested in. Also, give yourself permission to change. Sometimes friendships end or come to a close, not because anything went wrong necessarily, but just because we're changing, we're evolving, we're growing. It's natural that our relationships are going to grow and change and evolve too, right? If we evolve, then it makes sense that our friendships would too. So the clearer that you can get on what matters to you now, the more compassion you will have for yourself, the more naturally you will attract other friendships and people who will be in alignment with what it is that you're looking for. And all of those things are beautiful. So give yourself permission to change, give yourself permission to evolve, and remind yourself that friendships also evolve as a result of our evolution. And that's not a bad thing. I think that's a beautiful thing. So if you are grieving friendship losses right now, I hear you. I feel you. I promise you, it's such a common thing. So common, right? The secondary losses have a name. And don't beat yourself up about it. It's just a common thing that we don't see coming. And look for the ways that you can support yourself, right? Settle the storm. Look at those thoughts and choose them on purpose. And then take meaningful action toward who you want to be. I promise you, you're doing great. Probably so much better than you think, even if it hurts like hell. That's just the way of it. All right. If you want help learning how to support yourself through this kind of grief, if you want a community where you don't have to explain why it hurts or pretend that you're okay, I want to invite you to take the free grief stage assessment that's at coachingwithkrista.com, and it will point you towards which of the two programs that I offer would be the best for you right now. It will show you what you need next, given what you're currently struggling with. And then also, just for applying and filling out the grief stage assessment, you will get a training, either way, for either program, that gives you a little bit of what we actually do inside those programs so you can see what it's all about. Okay, that's what I have for you this week. Remember, I love you. You've got this. Take care, and I'll see you next week. All right, bye-bye. If you like what you've been hearing on this podcast and want to create a future you can truly get excited about even after the loss of your spouse, I invite you to join my Mom Goes On coaching program. It's small group coaching just for widowed moms like you, where I'll help you figure out what's holding you back and give you the tools and support you need so you can move forward with confidence. Please don't settle for a new normal that's less than what you deserve. Go to coachingwithkrista.com and click Work With Me for details and next steps. I can't wait to meet you.